Welcome back, everybody. It's your favorite dog host, Montlake Miguel, and this is Mondays on Montlake. We are back after a long off season. We've gone through spring ball now, and your boy was there at about six of the practices, and then I watched the game on TV. I like watching the games. It's easier for me to analyze the game from TV than it is actually at the stadium. But after watching what these Huskies are bringing to the table, the new, the old, all the storylines from the offseason are now in the past. We don't got to talk about Damon. We don't got to talk about chemistry because I think we saw that all this spring. So when we get into this episode of Mondays on Montlake, we're going to start off, we're going to recap the game, and then we'll kind of get into a breakdown of what I think we're going to do this season offensively from what we've seen so far. There is still guys coming in that aren't here yet, so we're going to be able to add to the soup, especially as we kind of move forward towards fall practice. But we got a pretty good look at the dogs during the spring. So let's start off by kind of recapping the game, and then we'll kind of jump into what I think the offense is going to look like. And then I'll do another episode next week where I'll kind of break down how I feel about the defense. That way you guys aren't having to watch this for like an hour and a half. Sound good? All right, it sounds good to me. I'm glad to be back. It's Mondays on Montlake. You know how it is. And you got your boy, Montlake Miguel, here. So the game yesterday was beautiful there out Montlake. I mean, the mountain was showing, the sun was shining, the skies were blue. It was perfect for football here in Seattle. And your purple team defeated the gold 27-10. The quarterback for your purple team was Dezmen Williams Jr., who went 4 for 8, 75 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. I think the game was fun to watch. Like, I really liked the spectacle that this is becoming for the spring. It's really adding a lot of hype to Washington football. And I think Jedd Fisch is the perfect guy to really get this thing going. I really liked, I went to a couple of the spring games and anything that was open for spring practices with Jimmy Lake and Kalen DeBoer and CP. But this is a different story. I feel like Jedd Fisch is really inviting and letting people in. And I had a really good time this spring, just kind of checking out the team and getting to see the dogs that we love so much. So the game, it wasn't like first team offense versus first team defense. It was kind of split up half and half. And I kind of, I don't think it gives you a pure picture of what the offense or what the defense is going to look like come fall. I think it kind of gives you a chance to see what players kind of flash and show what they can do. Now, the big offensive play of the day was the 43-yard touchdown from Dezmen Williams to Rashid Williams. I think Rashid Williams is really starting to solidify himself as that number one guy for Dezmen. A lot of people are saying it's Dezmen, and it really could be Dezmen Roebuck as well. But just through the spring, when I was watching him throw the ball, it seemed like he's got a lot of confidence in Rashid Williams. And I think Rashid Williams is really starting to live up to that four-star blue chip athlete that he was recruited as so many years ago. So that was good to see from Dezmen. And this is a quarterback driven offense, so seeing how the quarterback does is really important to me. Now, last year I had said this, that one of my big worries was the arm talent following Dezmen. I didn't think there was a lot of talent on the roster last year that wouldn't be a huge drop off. This year we have four-star redshirt freshman, or is he a sophomore? Elijah Brown, who's transferred over from Stanford. I was curious. I was crazy to see how big he was, but watching him in the spring game, he didn't do anything spectacular that blew your mind. He went 7 for 11 for 27 yards, which is nothing special. But what stood out to me was how comfortable he seemed to be in the pocket. How comfortable he seemed to be running the offense. It didn't look like the moment was too big for him. It didn't look like he was swimming in a new offense. And that made me feel really, really good. Plus, he showed off some quickness. I didn't realize he's not a Dezmen Williams kind of quick, but his quickness made me feel like, man, I think we're going to be okay. Another player that kind of stood out during the spring practice was running back Ansu Sanu. He had 3 carries for 28 yards, but for how he's a 240-pound running back, and for how big he is, he can get up the field. He's got some quickness. I think he's going to be really, really special for us in short down goal line type situations this year because I really believe that he's got the power and size to punch it in, and he was a lot quicker than I thought. Besides that, all of your starters are pretty much either not here yet. Guys like Jaden Lamar aren't here, or Trey Cooley aren't here yet, and then Jordan Washington had gotten hurt earlier in the spring, so he was gone. Didn't really get to see him. So we got to see a lot of the backups. Riken Moon, Warren Moon's son, came through. He went 5 for 28. I thought that was, like I said, it was hard to really see anything that made you think see what the offense is going to be, or what the offense is going to look like this year, except for outside of Damon and Rashid Williams, which I thought was really, really nice. Defensively, some really nice plays. I think Dylan Robinson has a chance at being an all Big Ten corner. Maybe not first team, but he's going to be an all Big Ten corner this year. He had an interception. He also had a fumble recovery on a punt for a touchdown when Desmond Mason, the true freshman, muffed the punt. I think this kid is a superstar in the making. He looks like the two guys we had last year in Efi and Taco, except for he looks more filled out. He looks like he is more NFL sized. And when I was standing next to him on the field, I was just like, wow, can't believe this guy's this big and he's a corner. I think he's going to be really, really, really good. And I think he showed it during the spring game. Donovan Robinson had the pick six, which was awesome. I mean, stepping in front of the route, taking it from the guy, and just you're seeing how much athleticism Donovan Robinson has. He might not see the field this year just because we have so many guys that are in that linebacker room, but he is definitely big for the future. Same thing with Gavin Day. Gavin Day it wasn't just this during the spring game. It was just literally the whole spring. He's been making just conspicuous plays. You see him every single time he's on the field, and he always seems to stand out. So those were kind of the highlights. Looking back through us, making sure I'm not missing anything on the highlights. I think that's about it when it comes to the game. Anything beyond that, I'll get into when I'm doing my breakdown. So I'm going to break down the offense first, and that's kind of where we're going to move into is how I see this offense playing out this year, because there is a lot of pieces. Some of them aren't even here yet. Like, we don't know how that running back room is going to shake out. But what I saw along the offensive line, and I think this is where I'm going to start our offensive kind of breakdown of how I'm feeling post-spring. I think we are in such a better position along the offensive line than we've been since Kalen DeBoer was here in 2023. I think, guys like John Mills, Landon Hatchett, Drew Azzopardi, those guys are solid I think are just building on the success they had from last year. And I think those are the makings of those guys have what you need for the makings of a really good offensive line. Carver Willis leaving hurt a lot, but true freshman Cody Green, man, has he been a star. I said this online that I have not seen a 5-star live up to their potential this much, at least to this point, since Shaq Thompson was here. He has been so good that unless you're watching him, you don't really notice him because his guys don't ever do anything. He's always doing his job, and he's quick. I mean, in pass protection, he moves like a veteran. Watching him drop back, step back, get into his stance. His kick is quick. Guys aren't bull rushing around him. I saw Isaiah Ward giving them some, little bit of trouble with his speed, but still he was always able to recover. I'm really curious to see how he does this fall against guys like Deuce Davis when they get into camp. But he has been phenomenal all spring long. And I think with him and John Mills locking down that left side, Lando in the middle, and then Champ has looked so good. He's as big as he was, but he looks like he lost fat and gained muscle. And I watched him stop. I have a highlight of him going against Derek Coleman Brusa and just putting the brakes on him, just stopping him, stonewalling him. And I think as long as he can keep his pass blocking at least to 85% what his run blocking is, he's going to be a phenomenal guard. And who knows what kind of honors he could get. Besides that, you have Gary and Hatchett and then transfer Colt Dietrich, who Colt Dietrich transferred in, and he's a big kid. He didn't play a lot this spring because he was hurt, but he was going through a lot of the drills, so you got a chance to see him. I also, as I put in my notes on Twitter, is that I saw him snapping and practice snapping, and I think he's gonna learn how to play every single position so he can play whenever we need him, because I think he's going to be rotational just like Gary and Hatchett. And I think that's the big difference between last year and this year, is having some just depth, having guys that are going to be able to step in and not see the drop off that we saw when McCree or Fa Solo got in last year at left tackle when Carver Willis went down. I mean, in that Ohio State game, we saw it. Literally, there was one sack up until Carver Willis got hurt, 4 sacks following his injury. We can't have that. And I think we're finally in a place where we have guys behind the starters that are starting caliber, and I think they're going to get in and rotate anyway. Same thing with Garion being able to snap. I think Garion can be able to play any of the 3 middle spots, the guard or center, and then I think Colt Dietrich is your guy that's your swing tackle. When you see somebody like Drew Azzopardi step out after this year because he's a senior, you have a guy that's ready to step in who will be a senior, will be able to lead, and will already have a bunch of game time experience under his belt. So I'm feeling good about the offensive line. Now, as we move it, as I was saying before, this is quarterback driven. During the spring, I watched a lot of what Dezmen Williams was doing. He was the big story over the spring, and he looked. There was a lot of really good things that came from the spring. There was some inconsistencies with the accuracy, which I think we saw at the end specifically last year, and it was a little bit worrisome. But he seems to have really taken over this leadership role for this offense, and I think it's helped him get his mind right, where when he's having a bad day, he starts figuring out how to put 1, 2, 3, 4 completions together to break himself out of his bad habits or his bad string of throws and find his rhythm, get into a place where he starts being successful. And when he starts being successful, his confidence goes up and he starts being able to throw a lot better. I think one of the things that we saw during the spring game is he hit Jordan Clay on a back shoulder pass where he threw the ball with leverage. It was coming after he went, I think he went 4 or 5. He missed 4 or 5 passes on the first drive, or first 2 drives maybe. And then he finally gets himself under control, and then boom, he hits Jordan Clay, which I really like, this true freshman. I'll get into him when we talk about wide receivers. And then he hits Rashid Williams for the touchdown, and it's like a 43-yard touchdown, and you're like, that's the Dezmen Williams that I want to see. And then I also liked seeing him calling plays. It shows you how into the offense Dezmen is. And those were the great traits that we saw from a guy like Michael Penix, where he just knew the offense so well, where you could let him call the play and he would be fine. Besides that, like I said, Elijah Brown, I think, is going to be a solid number 2. I think that if Dezmen Williams goes down, the drop off is far less than it was last year between him and Horton. So I'm really excited to see that. And then Keeney McMillan, out of all the quarterbacks that aren't Dezmen Williams, he seems to have the best grasp of the offense. I just question his arm talent. That's my biggest knock on him. But I know he's very liked, and I think he can run the offense pretty well. He's not a bad number 3. And then true freshman quarterback Derek Zammit, he got picked off. He had that pick 6. We threw it to Donovan Robinson. But he flashed a little bit too. He's got a big-time arm, and, he still needs a year or 2 of developing, but don't sleep on Derek Zammit. The kid is pretty damn good. Now, that's our quarterback room, and I'm feeling solid about it. I think as we move forward and we start looking at the wide receiver room, this might be one of the most interesting rooms on this team. I think your starters are locked in, or 2 of your starters are locked in with Rashid Williams and Dezmen Roebuck. I think they're going into spring as number 1 and 2 on your wide receiver depth chart. After that is where things start to get very interesting, because you have the transfer Moss, who he didn't play a ton during the spring, but in the beginning he did show. The first week of practice when I was there, he flashed. He's got a big body. He's tall. He runs real nice clean routes, catches with his hands, not a body catcher. And I liked him a lot. But when he went down, Justice Williams really started to step in. And Justice Williams made some catches across the middle in practice where it's what you want to see from him, where he uses his big, strong hands to grab the ball and then fight for yards after the catch because he's a lot bigger than, 6'4", 6'5". He's a lot bigger than most of the corners that he's playing against. So I really liked what I saw from him. Then as you went down the line, I think Jordan Clay and true freshmen Jordan Clay and Trez Davis, I think impressed all of spring. You came out and you heard Kevin Cummings say that he thinks Trez Davis might be the furthest along out of all the young receivers, and it showed. He has great hands. He runs great crisp routes. He's fast. And then Jordan Clay looks like that 6'3" receiver, except for he's built like it too. He's not skinny. He's not like a beanpole like some of these guys. There's no way those two guys are not finding their way onto the field this year when it comes to this offense. Um, Beyond that, guys like BP Miller, watching, you can see where there's talent there that he's going to be a guy. Chris Lawson, until he went down, and he's not hurt, but when he stopped playing a little bit towards the end because of an injury, he's looking really, really good as well. He's one of those guys that he kind of reminds me a little bit of maybe like a Jermaine Kearse type player where he finds a way to get open. He's got good hands. And I mean, he high points the ball. He can do everything. And I think he kind of falls into that almost like J-Mac type of guys. That's how I feel about Trez Davis as well. Let's move on. After the receiving room, I think we'll move on to the running back room because the running back room is definitely actually, you know what? Let's do the tight ends. All right, we're gonna move on to the tight end room. The tight end room, Decker DeGraff, I think, has shown a lot this spring. He looks like he's bulked up a little bit. He's worked a lot on his blocking. He still has his really good hands, and I think that he's going to be a solid number one. I was a little bit underwhelmed by him last year, but I'm going to put my faith in him because I think that he can do it. But after that, the guy that really surprised me this spring was Baron Naone. Baron Naone was all over the field. He was making catches. He was blocking. He looks the part. He's a big kid. He had that goofy throw in the spring game, so I don't expect to see him doing that. But he strikes me as a guy that's going to play a lot and is going to challenge Kate Eldridge for playing time because there's no way that somebody that showed that much during the spring is not. And so as when I'm looking at the tight end room, I'm seeing these guys, and you got the young dudes who are still, I think Vidal is his name, the true freshman. These kids they're gonna be good. They're just coming up under guys that I think are in front of them that are just more ready to play, guys that are more ready to step into the role and do what they got to do. Now, I think when Jaden Lamar gets in here, there's a good chance it's going to be between him and Jordan Washington. Washington hurt himself early in spring, hurt his neck, didn't practice the rest of spring. And I'm hoping everything's good, so he'll be good to play come fall, and I think it will be. And I think that's going to be a solid 1-2 punch, especially with Trey Cooley as well. You have three guys that all have a lot of college experience, that all have been in, Lamar played on a really good Oregon team last year. I think seeing the three of them guys, you're going to have the experience you need. But one of the things that I saw during the spring was I saw the young running backs get a chance. Chris Bonner, the 4-star recruit from the 4-star recruit at running back that came in, he's a little skinny, but when he runs, he's one of those people that he runs so fast and it doesn't even look like he's trying. And he got every chance to play with the ones this spring, and I thought he looked pretty damn good. The guy that took most of the number one reps, though, was Quaid Carr. He's fast. He's quick. He's got good hands out of the backfield. I don't think he's really great at picking up the blitz as a blocker, but he flashed a lot with what he can do with the ball in his hands. And I think as a scat back or a third down back, I think you're going to see a lot of him. McMahon was the one guy who I was looking to make a big move this spring, and I really don't think that he did. I think he was a little bit underwhelming, and I think he's starting to slide down the depth chart. Because Sanu, number 30, now he looked the part all of spring. And if we need a goal line back, like a big bruiser, I think from what I saw in practice, he would be the guy that I would put in. That's how I felt about him. After seeing him in the spring game and seeing him be able to be as quick as he is, I really think he's a guy that they're going to have a place for him in this offense. That's how I feel about him. And he runs a little high. Like that was one of the things I noticed about him, especially yesterday, was he runs a little high. But I think that's something that'll be correctable. But once you start getting the veterans into this, I think we have more than enough talent in our running back room that even though we lost our top two guys from last year, I think we're going to be just fine. I think there's a chance. I don't know if we're going to have somebody better than Jonah Coleman, but with the depth, I think we have a better room than we did last year. That's how I feel about it. So that's it for this first episode of Mondays on Montlake. I'm glad to be back in the mix. Next week, I'm going to break into how I feel about the defense. I'll break down each position just like I did. And then as we start going into the summertime, I'll start doing more deep down breakdowns into each position and the guys specifically. So until next week, you already know what it is. Go Dogs.